2, 3.
Good morning. And thank you all, my goodness, for coming. Wow, this is a beautiful crowd. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. Just wanted to welcome everybody. And at this moment, I would like Reverend Dr. DeAndre Thurman of St. Paul CME Church to come forward and just open the meeting with an ecumenical prayer. Thank you.
Good morning. Let us bow our heads. Gracious and giving God, you who are the one who creates and the one who uplifts, the one who gives us opportunities to gather, we thank you for this beautiful, beautiful Thursday morning. And we thank you for the opportunity to remember the light and the legacy, the one who did so much for so many in this community, Mamie George S. Williams. Bless now, O God, her memory as we gather this day to celebrate the great contributions of her life. We pray this in your name. Amen. Amen.
Good afternoon again. We are here to commemorate Mamie George S. Williams, or Mamie George Williams as I call her, a champion of her people. I am Velma Maia Thomas Fan. I am an author and historian and your mistress of ceremony. I want to first give thanks to Live Oak Public Libraries for opening their doors to us for this program. Let's give them a hand. And a special thank you to, I don't even know if she's in here now, Miss Cassie Jones, branch manager. She has been my rock throughout all of this. So Cassie, thank you. And just a little bit about the library. I'm pretty sure everyone knows that this is indeed a historical branch. And there's information upstairs that talks about the library itself. But one thing that I wanted to bring forth is that the Women's Suffrage Club of Chatham County was organized here in this library, June 13th, 1919. And Mamie George Williams attended several of the meetings. So we have a lot going on here and a lot to be thankful for about this tremendous and wonderful branch. So I want to say welcome and say welcome to all of our special guests. Everyone here is a special guest. So turn to somebody and say, welcome, special guest. Welcome, special guest. And at this time, do we have any elected officials past or present? If so, please stand. Okay. Thank you. I, as they say, I am not from here, so thank you. Do we need to? It's very good. This is a very wonderful occasion to honor Mamie George Williams and to bring this native person from Savannah forward to her community to share her with everyone. I want to take this time to give an introduction to Brianna James, the Georgia Historical Society, and she will give us an overview of the Georgia Historical Society marker program. Ms. James, welcome, thank you.
Hey, thank you, and good morning, everyone. Good morning. All right, I would like to echo that and just say this is a great turnout. We're very excited for everyone to be here. Again, my name's Brianna James. I'm with the Georgia Historical Society, and I'm the Historical Marker and Program Coordinator there. I'm very glad to be with you all this morning to dedicate the Mamie George Williams Historical Marker. Before we begin, I would also like to give out a few thanks to some folks and all of you for your support and enthusiasm to see this historical marker installed. First, I would like to thank Velma Thomas Fan. She served as GHS's counterpart throughout the process, and we could not have erected this marker without her. I would also like to acknowledge the sponsors of the marker, the League of Women Voters of Coastal Georgia, the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Savannah Alumna Chapter, and the Savannah Tribune as well, for their support of this historical marker. Yes, thank you. GHS is also very appreciative to have the support of the community in today's dedication, not only to my fellow speakers, a big thank you, but also a special thank you to the elected officials. I'd just like to echo that as well, not only for being here today, but for helping us also get this marker erected. So GHS truly relies on local sponsors, leaders, and communities to apply for and support the Georgia Historical Marker Program. The Mamie George Williams Historical Marker joins over 2,100 historical markers across the state of Georgia that make up the Georgia Historical Marker Program. The Georgia Historical Marker Program is a program of the Georgia Historical Society that embodies the spirit of the society to collect, examine, and teach Georgia history. What makes the marker program unique is that it is a collaboration between the Georgia Historical Society and communities like yours. The Mamie George Williams Historical Marker also joins over 50 historical markers across the state that make up GHS's Georgia Civil Rights Trail. This trail particularly uses historical markers to document the struggle for human and civil rights from the period following Reconstruction all the way through the modern movement in the mid-20th century. With the erection of this new historical marker, anyone can simply ride or walk up and learn about a resident of this very neighborhood, Mamie George Williams. Her leadership led her to be extraordinary. She became the first woman from Georgia and the first African-American woman in the nation to serve on the Republican National Committee. This marker allows us to look at the events of Georgia's past, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and it helps us understand the ongoing significance of the past in our lives today. So with that, I'd like to also encourage you all to continue to help us grow the Georgia Historical Marker Program. With your support of the marker program, you and your community are helping us tell the stories of our shared past and also ensure that our state's past isn't forgotten. Whether you're a part of the application process or simply a lover of historical markers, historical markers offer an important opportunity. Anyone and everyone can simply walk up and learn about a spot that makes anyone can simply walk up to a historical marker and learn about the spot that they're standing on and the person, the place, or the event that makes that spot significant. And by standing on that spot, as we'll see later when we unveil the marker, history truly becomes a little bit more real. So thank you all.
We did mention our sponsors. However, I would like to acknowledge them again and give them an opportunity to come forward. So we will start with the League of Women Voters, Coastal Georgia. Is there a representative who would like to share, thank you, why you joined us in this wonderful journey?
Wonderful seeing you again. Good morning. I gotta adjust this, y'all. I'm really, really tall. Can you hear me now? Better? I can speak. I can project. Okay. Good deal. Good morning. And thank you all so much for having me here today. And I think that was a perfect segue when we spoke about the past and honoring the past today. As of 2 days ago, I am the first African American president of the League of Women Voters of Coastal Georgia. So I feel in many ways this space has already been prepared for me. And I can certainly acknowledge Mamie George Williams for her contributions in the past for getting us to this point today. And I'll start by saying, too, that the League of Women Voters was founded in 1920, February 14th, 1920. So we are celebrating our 103rd year this year of registering women to vote in America. That said, and that being spoken, we know that that was a contribution that every woman contributed to, but not every woman was benefited from. And Mamie was certainly one of those women. You know, February 14th, and then come that same November, she registered 400,000 women.
40,000.
40,000? That's a significant amount when you just, that's still a significant amount when you just receive the right to vote. And to think of where she led her efforts and her contributions. And that is the forecast of today. She was a visionary. She had the foresight to know what that meant and what that could build down the road. And true enough, I'm a manifestation of that vision and of that movement. So I don't want to hold up too much time. We have other sponsors, but thank you all so much. And again, thank you for Mamie George Williams for what she did early for us here in Savannah.
Next, we'll hear from Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Savannah Alumni Chapter, one of our sponsors.
Good morning. Good morning. I would like for all members of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated to please stand while I bring my remarks. I greet you on behalf of the membership of the Savannah Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. We are honored to partner with the Coastal Georgia League of Women Voters, the Savannah Tribune, and the Historical Society to recognize one of Savannah's very own, Mamie George S. Williams. Since its founding in 1913, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated has been dedicated to social action and service. Mrs. Williams' trailblazing achievements as a suffragette embody the founding purpose of our sorority, whose first public act was participating in the Women's Suffrage March in Washington, D.C. on March 3rd, 1913, 2 months after the organization was organized. The Savannah Alumni Chapter applauds Mrs. Williams as a champion for women's voting rights during what was surely a difficult period in our history. We applaud her as a hero of her time, and her legacy is a model for us today as we continue to advocate for voting rights and individual liberties. I will close with a quote by Dorothy Irene Height, another great African-American civil rights and women's rights activist who served as the national president of both the National Council of Negro Women and Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. She said, "Without community service, we would not have a strong quality of life. It is important to the person who served as well as the recipient. It's the way in which we ourselves grow and develop." Such a fitting quote for this historic occasion, honoring Mamie George S. Williams. Thank you.
Thank you, and now we will hear from the Savannah Tribune, Ms. Shirley James.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. And thank you all for coming. Some people say that I send emails out at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, and it worked. So I appreciate your being here. This is such an honor and indeed a pleasure and a privilege and all of that to partner with the Georgia Historical Society, the League of Women Voters of Coastal Georgia, my sorority, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Savannah Alumni Chapter, and just you in the community in reference to this historic event that is happening for us today. Mamie George Williams was fearless, she was courageous, she was a visionary, she was forthright, determined, she was an action-oriented woman who worked within the system. Think about that. She worked within the system, made the system work for her. And through that, she made such a significant contribution to this state and definitely to our community as a suffragist and as a community activist. I would want her life to be an inspiration and a source of encouragement to women of all ages, and especially to our young girls, and especially to our young women. Mamie George Williams is our history. Mamie George Williams is our history. And she is a story that is to be told continuously. Her works, accomplishments, which include challenges and obstacles she faced, believe it or not, were recorded in the Black press during her lifetime. The Savannah Tribune recorded her life. The Atlanta Daily World recorded her life. So as editor of the Savannah Tribune, as publisher of the Savannah Tribune, I pledge that we shall continue to record the life and legacy of Mamie George S. Williams. But we will also record the lives of those of you who are advocates, who are community activists, who work for voter registration and voter empowerment. Your stories will be told. Your stories will be told in the Savannah Tribune. That's making history. That's how we continue to write our history. So I do want to thank you, Velma, for all of the research and the commitment, everything that you've done to bring Mamie George S. Williams forward, bring her into our lives, and help us to understand who she is, not who she was, because it's her spirit. It's her spirit that we want to continue to have among us, that will encourage us, that will inspire us, that will motivate us. If Mamie did it during the times when she was alive, with all of the obstacles and the roadblocks and everything that was in her path, what does that say to us today? We have those same obstacles, roadblocks in our paths today. If Mamie did it, we can do it. If Mamie did it, we can do it. She never turned back. She never gave up. So I'd like to read a couple of quotes. One, and it's probably a combination of quotes upon her death that were from the Savannah Tribune and the Atlanta Daily World, and that's how it will close. The Atlanta Daily Word said, as a modern Esther, and for those of you who are biblical, you will know that Esther came at the right time when she was supposed to come. But as a modern Esther pleading for her people, she knew no compromise, accepted no quarter, that's a piece of money. Mrs. Williams will go down in history as the champion saint of her people, with her hands unstained and her conscience clear, and with the consolation that at no time did temptation in its glaring disguise move her to deliver her people or her party for 30 pieces of silver. That's from the Atlanta Daily World. And Saul C. Johnson, a former publisher, editor of the Savannah Tribune, said this upon her passing. In the passing of Mrs. Mamie George Williams, Savannah has lost another citizen, loyal to it to the core, and a tireless champion for her people. Perhaps none of her activities gave her more satisfaction than her work with the Chatham Protective Home for Negro Girls and the Girl Scouts. Many children whom she mothered bear eloquent testimony of the devotion to a cause to which she gave the latter years of her life. Although battle-tested, victorious, and at times standing as a lone reed, speaking out on behalf of her people, Mamie never flinched. She never gave in. Mamie George Williams was a beacon of light and hope for women across Georgia and the nation. She was truly an Esther of her people. Let us be Esthers. Thank you.
And in addition to our sponsors, we also have our supporters. And so I would like someone from the Girl Scouts to come forward. I know this is a surprise yet. But you did walk with us on this path. Thank you.
Hello. I am surprised. I can say that Girl Scouts is a movement that works to build girls of courage, confidence, and character who make the world a better place. But people like Mamie George Williams fought to make it a movement so that all girls could be part of that adventure. So Girl Scouts of the USA is so proud to call her part of their legacy, and so thankful for Velma for bringing it to us, helping us rediscover this history, and letting us be part of her journey.
Thank you. We want to have what I call a roll call. Mamie touched so many lives. When I was doing research on her, once I thought, okay, she was a member of this organization and that organization, that's the end. Then I would turn a page And she's a member of this organization and that organization. So it's never the end. And someone asked, did she ever sleep? Because the more you see of her, the more she did, the more she would continue to do. So I'm just going to read a list, and if you are a representative or a member or a supporter of any of these organizations, and this is indeed a partial list, please feel free to stand. The American Red Cross, Delta Sigma Theta, well, we know y'all are here. Daughters of the Elks, the National Association of Colored Women's Clubs, First Congregational Church, Savannah, Beth Eden Church, Greenbrier Children's Home, United Way Community Chest, NAACP, Carver Savings Bank, Juliet Gordon Low Birthplace, Savannah State University. Any alum in here? All right. Oh, that's everybody. Okay. St. Philip's Church, Iota Lambda, Georgia Federation of Women, National Urban League Savannah, the USO Savannah Hilton Head Airport, St. Augustine Episcopal Church, Asbury Methodist Church, Savannah District of the Parents Teachers Organization, PTO. Do we still have that? PTO? Oh, okay, we got to get that back. So, and this is, I mean, and the more I read, we would have everybody stand. If I listed every church that she spoke at, trust me, everybody would stand. So she was indeed a community person and someone who was very much a part of what was going on with her people. One thing I do know about Mamie is that she loved children, and as you heard, she would speak for children, she would embrace children, and so the youth were indeed those people who inspired her. She inspired us, but the youth inspired her. So we come to a special part of our program where we engage our youth. Mamie supported youth, and although she had no children of her own, she embraced Savannah's Black youth. So we will have an introduction by Shirley James, and then a theater reading of I Am Mamie George Williams. Shirley.
Now you are about to hear the work written by Velma Fan. She was so excited about this. She said, Shirley, we need to get some young ladies between the ages of 15 and 18, and I'm going to write a script, and will you help? I said, okay. Sometimes I don't know how to say no, am I right? But what I tried to do, after I read the script, and there were 4 speaking parts, I tried to make sure that the young ladies that you will listen to this morning represented Mamie in reference to the things that she did and the things that she cherished. So I'm going to introduce to you the young ladies who will perform I Am Mamie George Williams, which is a theater reading written by Velma Thomas Fan, author and historian. We have Trinity Allen. Trinity is representing, and she is a member of the Delta Gems, which is sponsored by Savannah Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. We have Paris Wilson. Paris represents the Girl Scouts of Historic Georgia, Sycamore Service Unit, Troop 30002. Abigail Gregory, representing the Savannah Tribune, which was established in 1875. But Abigail is one of our youth illustrators for the Savannah Tribune, and also my granddaughter. And we also have Nia Conley, who's representing the Summer Bonanza Partnership, which is a mentoring program for youth. And it's one that was founded by Dr. Priscilla Thomas. And when you think about these organizations and their influence and their work and support with young people, I thought that it was appropriate that we have that kind of representation. So now I would like to introduce I Am Mamie George Williams, a theater reading.
I am Mamie George Williams. I was born in 1872 and was a lifelong resident of Savannah. As an adult, I lived and worked in this community.
I believe in civic duty. I became a member of the Toussaint Louverture branch of the Savannah chapter of the American Red Cross. I earned a beautiful pin for 2,400 hours of volunteer service.
And I joined the National Association of Colored Women's Club, whose mission was to uplift women, children, and families.
In 1920, after the passage of the 19th Amendment granting women the right to vote, I led efforts that registered 40,000 black women in Georgia and prepared them to vote in the 1920 presidential election. Women were turned away, though, due to an old Georgia law. Even I was asked to leave the voting area of the Chatham County Courthouse.
And the story was in the newspaper, too. Why, it wasn't until the passage of the 1965 Voting Rights Act that everyone received the right to vote.
That's right, the 1965 Voting Rights Act.
In 1924, I was appointed the first woman to represent Georgia on the Republican National Committee. We were Republicans back then, you know. We voted the party of Lincoln.
I also became the first black woman to serve on the Republican National Committee, and I was the first woman in history to speak on the floor of the Republican National Convention.
Say what?
While a member of the Republican National Committee, I spoke up for black people. I also was the founder of the first national political organization for black folks.
I spoke out against lynching and represented Georgia among the anti-lynching crusaders. Did you know that Congress just passed an anti-lynching bill in 2022?
Some said I was too outspoken, too bold, and too smart.
Did they ever say that about
men?
I supported the election of Herbert Hoover for president, but after he won, the Republican Party figured out a way to get rid of many of the black Republican Party leaders, including me. But I didn't go down without a fight, I'll tell you that.
After politics, I again devoted my time to my Savannah and Georgia communities.
I served in regional women's clubs. Did you know that I worked closely with Miss Mary McLeod with you?
I was on the committee that opened the first recreation center and swimming pool in Savannah for black children. I was house parent of the Chatham County Protective Home and served on the board of the Greenbrier Children's Home. And I was vice president of the Carver State Bank. Yes, I was.
I also served on the board of the Negro Division of Girl Scouts here in Savannah. I chaired the fundraising committee to create the Log Cabin Camp, the first camp for black Girl Scouts in the Southeast, some say in the nation.
I passed away in 1951. My community celebrated my life. Soon after, the Girl Scouts named the Mamie George Williams District in my honor, and they were tops of sales in Girl Scout cookies.
When I look back over my life, I can honestly say that my greatest joy came from working with young ladies and helping them to enrich their lives. But I still firmly believe that black women, because we bear the double burden, we must be involved in politics. Vote, sisters, vote.
I am Mamie George Williams.
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 I vote. I am active in politics and I serve my community. Thank you for doing the same.
I'm gonna let all the mamas get all the pictures. I got to. Thank you, young ladies. I think that was beautiful. We have to get our young people involved. We're coming to the close because I didn't want to keep everybody forever. But I do want to read the marker. Mamie George Williams, a lifelong resident of Savannah, lived and worked near here. Near here. As a matter of fact, she lived down the street. And she worked on Broad Street. A political and civic leader, Williams volunteered for many organizations, including the Red Cross, the Girl Scouts, the Colored Women's Clubs. A suffragist, she organized voter campaigns and registered African American women to vote following the passage of the 19th Amendment. Nonetheless, African Americans were denied full voting rights due to Jim Crow laws. In 1924, Williams became the first woman from Georgia and the first African American woman in the nation to serve on the Republican National Committee. A community leader, she led fundraising efforts for a home in Macon for African American girls and served as vice president of Carver State Bank. She worked with the African American Girl Scouts, financially assisting with establishing their log cabin camp. And this is erected by the Georgia Historical Society, the League of Women Voters, Coastal Georgia, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Savannah Alumni Chapter, and the Savannah Tribune. That is Mamie George Williams. So in closing, I just want to thank all of you all who came out and everyone who joined in Zoom meetings and walked with us through this whole experience. And I also like to take this opportunity to thank my family, my sisters who are here. Y'all can wave your hands. and to thank Miss Olabisi. Miss O, as some of you all have come to know her, she's my right hand. She held me up, she held my hand, and at times she held me hostage when I threatened to abandon this plan and get on with a normal life. This has been a journey since Mamie George Williams first caught my eye some 20 years ago to the placing of this historical marker in her honor. How do you condense the life of service into 300 or so words? And I struggled with this. I struggled with what to highlight and what to leave out, which words to capitalize. I struggled with language. Mamie lived at a time when we were colored, Negro, and worse. Would I use those words exclusively, or could I, in the 21st century, select the word African American? Would it change or distract from her good works? After deliberation, I decided to use African American as in African American Girl Scouts. I want this historical marker to speak to today's youth. I want African American girls to see an African American woman working on behalf of African American girls. I want them to know that she was tops in politics, spoke up for African American people, that she was the vice president of a bank, and that she cared about youth. At a time when Black history, and therefore American history, is under attack, African American youth in particular need an inspiring narrative, one that says, yes, you can excel, and here is proof. And there are other things about Mamie that I'm still trying to discover. Ultimately, we do not know where she is buried. We know that she is interred in Lower Grove South, but we don't know the section or the lot. Her husband is there. Now, his marker is waist high, and she may be buried with him, but that was not her wish, as she expressed it in her will. And I was determined to find her burial spot. I called the city, I called the cemetery, and people were responsive, but the fact was that her burial location, like that of many other African Americans, was not recorded. Then one day I realized perhaps we did not need to know where she was buried, because she is all around us. She is with us in times when there is need for community, to which she dedicated her life. She is available to us at political meetings when a fair, civil voice is needed. She is with us every time a child needs a hug, when adults need literacy class, when young men and women join the armed services to protect this nation. Did you feel her spirits when these young women performed their theatrical reading? Yes. I believe Mamie George Williams will be with us whenever we call her. She is here now, and as we celebrate her, she celebrates us and reminds us to keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. The time is drawing nigh, so children don't get weary. Children don't get weary. Children don't get weary till your work is done. So keep those lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. The time is drawing nigh. nigh. Thank you. I applaud you all. I would ask everyone, I guess we could take the elevator or the stairs up, probably the elevator, and meet us across the street. Well done, Mamie. Well done. Thank you all so very much. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. The time is drawing nigh.